We can't simply reduce human beings to the biological categories of male and female as if we were any other species. We are mammals, yes, but with an additional, defining layer: culture. This layer is what differentiates us from the rest of the animal kingdom and what makes terms like man and woman exist, as they aren't mere synonyms for male and female. If they were, our language wouldn't have evolved to include both pairs of words. The very existence of this linguistic duality underscores the complexity of our identity. Biology provides us with a framework, a starting point. Human beings are born with a biological sex that, in its simplest form, is defined by the ability to reproduce in a specific way. Males are those who can fertilize an egg, while females are those who can become pregnant and carry a pregnancy to term. This is a fundamental distinction that cannot be altered. However, this biological basis doesn't determine who we are as individuals. It doesn't dictate our personality, our preferences, or our way of interacting with the world. This is where gender comes in, a concept that is not purely biological but a cultural and social construct. Gender is the manifestation of our identity in the world. While sex is the biological part, gender is the part that integrates the biological with the cultural. Honestly, there is an infinite number of genders. Culture presents us with certain categories, like man and woman, which are often associated with biological sex, but these categories are limited and don't capture the totality of the human experience. Transgender and non-binary people are a clear example that gender doesn't always align with the sex assigned at birth. They demonstrate that gender identity is an internal and personal experience that transcends social and biological expectations. Just like cisgender people, trans and non-binary people have the capacity to reproduce, and sex and gender are simply different things. Society often tries to fit people into predefined boxes based on their biological sex. If you're male, you're expected to behave in a certain way, wear a certain type of clothing, speak with a deep voice, and have specific interests. If you're female, the opposite is expected. But these expectations are a cultural imposition, not a biological reality. Clothing, colors, the way you speak or walk, none of this is intrinsically tied to sex. A person of the male sex who chooses to dress in clothing traditionally associated with women isn't changing their sex or doing anything wrong. They remain the same sex. They are simply expressing their identity in a way that challenges cultural norms. Harm to society doesn't come from the way people dress or express themselves, but from the harmful actions they commit. It's fundamental to redirect our judgment and criticism toward behaviors that truly cause harm to others and the human group in general. If a person, regardless of their sex or gender, steals, lies, abuses, or commits any other harmful act, that's where we should focus our concern. Transgender and non-binary people don't harm anyone. The fact that a person is cisgender also doesn't harm anyone. The fact that a person of the male sex decides to wear women's clothing has no negative effect on society. What does have a negative effect is when people steal or mistreat others. At the end of the day, everything has a biological basis. Even cultural constructs have a biological basis, since the capacity to create and process culture is a human characteristic that originated through biological evolution. We cannot deny the biological component of human existence. However, we cannot allow that biological component to be the only lens through which we view the world. Culture adds a richness and complexity that are essential to our humanity. Ignoring the influence of culture on our identity is to dangerously oversimplify what it means to be human. We must embrace complexity and diversity, recognizing that identity is a personal journey and that tolerance and empathy are the true foundations of a healthy society. The next time we judge someone for their appearance or the way they express themselves, we should ask ourselves if that person is truly causing any harm. If the answer is no, then we should set aside judgment and celebrate the diversity that makes us unique. The history of humanity is the history of the evolution of our understanding of ourselves. Throughout the centuries, we have broken down barriers, questioned dogmas, and expanded our vision of the world. The understanding of gender and identity is just the latest chapter in this story. As we move forward, we must remember that progress isn't about fitting people into old molds, but about creating a space where every individual can be authentic without fear of being judged or harmed. Accepting that sex and gender are different things and that gender expressions are valid and diverse is a crucial step toward building a more just, compassionate, and truly human world. Discussions about gender and identity often become heated, but at their core, they are simply a search for a deeper truth about who we are. This search is what defines us as human beings.